Alexander Harrison adjusted his titanium cufflinks as his private hovercar descended toward New Geneva's sprawling cityscape. The gleaming towers of humanity's first interstellar metropolis stretched endlessly below, a testament to human ambition that had transformed Earth into the galaxy's premier trading hub. As CEO of Harrison Dynamics, the largest terraforming corporation in known space, Alexander commanded wealth that could purchase entire star systems. Yet none of it could fill the void left by his wife's death 3 years ago. His 12-year-old son Marcus sat silently beside him, staring out the window with the same hollow expression that had become his default since the accident. The boy had withdrawn into himself, rejecting tutors, dismissing counselors, and showing little interest in anything beyond his quantum tablet games. "We're here for the quarterly inspection," Alexander reminded him as they approached the Harrison Foundation's newest facility, a sprawling complex dedicated to integrating the galaxy's refugee populations into human society. Marcus merely nodded, his attention already drifting back to his device. The facility buzzed with activity as beings from dozens of worlds worked alongside human staff. Alexander had established the foundation partly for tax benefits, partly for public relations, but mostly because his late wife Sarah had believed deeply in humanity's responsibility to help those displaced by the ongoing galactic conflicts. As they toured the educational wing, Alexander's assistant droned on about integration statistics and success rates, but his attention was caught by an unusual scene in one of the courtyards. A small crowd of children, both human and alien, gathered around a makeshift teaching area constructed from discarded cargo containers. At the center sat a young Zilithian girl, perhaps 16 in human years, her violet skin marked with the telltale scars of radiation burns that spoke of a difficult journey through space. Her clothes were patched and worn, clearly salvaged, yet she held herself with quiet dignity as she demonstrated complex mathematical equations using nothing but scratches in the dirt and small stones. What truly captured Alexander's attention, however, was his son. Marcus had somehow slipped away from the tour and now sat cross-legged among the other children, completely absorbed in the lesson. For the first time in years, the boy's eyes showed genuine interest and engagement. "The quantum fluctuation here," the Zilithian girl was saying in accented but precise English, "creates a cascade effect that allows for faster-than-light communication across vast distances. Your human scientists discovered this principle, but my people learned to apply it to biological systems." She noticed Marcus's raised hand. "Yes? Could that work with terraforming atmospheric processors?" Marcus asked, his voice carrying an excitement Alexander hadn't heard since before Sarah's death. The girl, Nora, Alexander learned from whispered conversations among staff, smiled warmly. "An excellent question. The principles could theoretically be adapted, though the energy requirements would be enormous." Alexander watched, transfixed, as his son engaged in the kind of intellectual discourse that the finest private tutors had failed to inspire. The alien girl treated each question with respect and encouraged the children to think beyond conventional boundaries. "Sir?" His assistant's voice broke through his reverie. "The board meeting?" "Reschedule it," Alexander said quietly, never taking his eyes off the scene. Over the following weeks, Alexander found reasons to visit the facility regularly. Each time he observed the same phenomenon: children from across the galaxy gathering around Nora's improvised classroom, learning not just science and mathematics, but philosophy, ethics, and the kind of creative problem-solving that had made humanity's rapid expansion possible. He learned that Nora was officially classified as an unaccompanied minor refugee, sleeping in the facility's temporary housing and surviving on basic meal rations. Her homeworld had been consumed in the war between the hegemony and the Free Worlds Alliance, leaving her one of millions displaced across the galaxy. Yet rather than despair, she had chosen to teach. "Why?" Alexander finally asked her one evening, after the other children had dispersed. Marcus was helping her organize the day's materials, chattering excitedly about terraforming applications he'd researched. Nora looked up from where she knelt, carefully storing her makeshift teaching supplies in a worn bag. "Why do I teach?" "You've lost everything," Alexander said. "Your world, your family, your future, yet you spend your days educating other people's children. Why?" The young Zilithian was quiet for a long moment, her large, dark eyes reflecting the setting sun. On my world, we believe that knowledge shared is the only true immortality. When my people die, their bodies return to dust, but their ideas live on in the minds they've touched. She gestured toward Marcus, who was excitedly sketching atmospheric diagrams in his notebook. Your son has a brilliant mind. He sees connections that others miss, asks questions that challenge assumptions. In my culture, such a mind is considered sacred, a responsibility we all share to nurture and protect. Alexander felt something shift in his chest, a warmth he hadn't experienced since Sarah's death. What would you need? To teach properly, I mean, not just with scraps and salvage. Nora's eyes widened. I couldn't ask for anything, Mr. Harrison. You've already given refugees like me more than most worlds offer. You're not asking, I'm offering. Alexander pulled out his personal communicator and began making notes. A proper classroom, full curriculum development support, accreditation for your teaching methods, legal residency status. Father? Marcus looked up from his sketches, hope flickering in his eyes for the first time in years. What do you think, son? Should we make this official? The boy's smile was radiant. Can we really? 6 months later, the Harrison Foundation's Integrated Learning Initiative had become the most successful educational program in the sector. Nora, now officially credentialed and holding permanent residency status, had developed a teaching methodology that combined human innovation with Zilithian philosophical approaches and learning techniques from a dozen other species. Marcus, once withdrawn and disinterested, had become her assistant teacher, helping younger children while pursuing advanced studies that would have challenged university students. More importantly, he had rediscovered his joy in learning and his connection to others. But the true transformation had been Alexander's own. In watching Nora turn tragedy into purpose, loss into opportunity, he had remembered Sarah's vision of humanity not as conquerors of the galaxy, but as its gardeners, nurturing growth wherever they found it. You know, he told Nora one evening as they watched Marcus lead a group of young students through a complex engineering problem. Sarah would have loved you. Nora smiled, her violet skin seeming to glow in the warm light of the classroom. I think she would have been proud of what Marcus is becoming, and perhaps of what you've chosen to become as well. Alexander nodded, feeling a peace he hadn't known was possible. Sometimes, he reflected, the greatest wealth wasn't measured in credits or star systems, but in the simple act of helping someone else reach their potential. And sometimes, the best teachers came from the most unexpected places. The galaxy was vast and often cruel, but in moments like these, humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their ambition. It was their capacity to recognize worth in others and nurture it, no matter how unlikely the circumstances. That, Alexander realized, was what made them truly worthy of the stars.